What's going on, everyone, and welcome to a new vegan takedown video. The video we're going to be commenting on today is one that I found when I was actually preparing last week's vegan takedown video called Vegan versus Meat Eater, and I decided to do a takedown video later on. So it consists of a Joe Rogan clip. For those of you who don't know, Joe Rogan is an extremely famous person in the United States and worldwide. He has his Joe Rogan podcast listened to by millions of people. And he actually has gone back and forth with veganism, bashing vegans, defending vegans, but most of the time he's quite anti-vegan. He's even made jokes about it. He mocks vegans. He claims that vegans do it because they feel superior, etc., etc. Before we get started, I just want to ask you quickly to please subscribe and turn the notification bell button so that you can be up to date with all my videos. It really helps my channel and will let you know whenever I post a video. We're gonna get into it now and see what he's gonna say and what his guest is going to say about veganism.
Like, I talked about that I was ate like a vegan for a couple of years on my podcast. We got more hate comments. Like, people are so like passionate, like screw you eating that way. What do you mean? I was eating that way. I wasn't saying you have to eat that way.
So obviously he's saying that he shared on his podcast that he was eating vegan and he got so much hate about it. And you know what? It's something very, very common when you publicly share that you eat a vegan diet or you are a vegan.
And anger if you show them a different way of living or eating. Just eating.
Well, they look at you as a person who's responsible for the death and suffering of animals.
That is true.
Joe Rogan being extremely objective and very reasonable and factual for once. What he's saying is true. When you are an animal rights activist, you see non-vegans as people responsible for the death and suffering of billions of animals.
That's what it is.
Right.
And they wanted to show that they are in a better moral position and they feel genuinely outraged by your eating meat.
Alright, he had to ruin it. I think I had too much hope for him for once. Now, vegans aren't vegan in order to feel better about themselves. Vegans are vegan because they respect animals. And in this day and age, we no longer need to rely on eating animal products. It is in no way justified. I mean, even if someone does that, how is that even an argument against the philosophy of veganism itself?
But it's the other side too. If you say that you ate like a vegan, meat eaters come at you and say, oh, who the hell do you think you are? Yeah.
Oh, you gay, bro?
That's true. That's true. And this is what he was talking about from the beginning, before Joe Rogan kind of switched the context that he had shared. He did say that when he got the hate comment, it's because he shared the fact that he's vegan with his audience.
Dicks.
Isn't it weird?
It is weird.
Like, what? Who do you care about?
Well, the meat eaters, it doesn't make any sense. The meat eater ragging on the vegan, to me, doesn't make any sense at all.
Now you're talking.
I have never seen Joe Rogan's this side. I have to say I'm quite impressed that he actually sees that it makes absolutely no sense for a meat eater to attack vegans for eating a plant-based diet and not killing animals.
It's sort of like, I feel like maybe some meat eaters that shit on vegans, they get mad because vegans are so proselytizing. It's such a common thing to be a proselytizing vegan.
Right.
Alright, and he ruined it again. Vegans aren't trying to convert you to veganism for their own sake. They're trying to do it so that you don't contribute to the unnecessary death and suffering of all these animals.
Meat eaters almost like attack first.
First, right.
You know?
Yeah, like, screw you. You're not going to make me feel bad about what I do.
Yeah, but then there's a legit thought point that could be made that the people that are, a lot of the people, maybe, that are shitting on vegans and veganism, they're doing so because they don't want to address their own complicity in the suffering of animals.
He just got my respect back. I have never seen this side of him, but I've also never seen him go back and forth within literally a few seconds between one stance and the other.
The idea that you could get mad at someone for eating vegan, that seems crazy.
It does seem crazy, but I think that people are so connected to what they eat that it brings up this...
Yeah, it's a team thing.
Yeah, right.
I actually agree with this point. I really believe that one of the reasons why non-vegans get so triggered by vegans is because eating in itself is an extremely personal thing. I mean, most of us do it at least 3 times a day, so it's quite a personal thing. And I do believe that that is one of the main reasons why people get so irritated or offended or triggered, because if they realize that what they're doing is wrong, it means they're going to have to do a massive change in their day-to-day lives. They believe it's going to be a massive change, but for those of you who are vegan, you already know that it's not that much of a big deal.
We were talking about
Yeah.
a lot along the same. I mean, how many goddamn vegans out there have the word vegan in their Twitter profile or their Facebook profile or their Instagram
It's
profile?
true.
Jesus f***ing Christ!
Right, you're wearing it like a
badge
thing.
of honor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, because you want to make a stance so that when people land on your page, they know what your ethics are. Second of all, it's not only vegans who do that. I mean, have you seen people on keto diets or carnivore diets? They also all have it in their profiles.
You know, unless you run a TV show like Meat Eater with Steve Rinella on Sportsman's Outdoor Channel.
Nice.
Unless you're doing that,
Yeah.
By the way, the person he mentioned, Steve Ranella, is the one that we did the vegan takedown video last week. Click on this card if you want to check it out.
some of us definitely don't have to eat meat. You can do whatever you want.
Scientifically speaking, every single one of us definitely don't have to eat meat. The world's biggest nutrition and dietetic associations have already confirmed that a balanced vegan diet is healthy and it supports healthy living in people of all ages, including infancy, pregnancy, and old age.
All look at factory farming and say, this is despicable.
Yeah,
and this
disgusting.
is horrific that we've allowed our civilization to accept this
Yeah.
inside of our borders, right?
Mhm.
That this is a barbaric practice.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying because there's a complete denial of like the natural order of life. Instead, you're like, no, I'm gonna just capture this life and cage it up and then shoot it when it's ready.
Yeah.
Like, woo, that way it stays tender because it doesn't move. And you're like, woo, this is
So Joe Rogan is making a point about how horrible and horrific factory farms are, and I'm extremely happy that he's making that point. However, if you believe that they're horrific, it means that you believe animals need their rights to be respected. It means you believe that we should be considered towards other animals. And as an extension of this thought and stance, you would also have to accept that killing an animal at any point for any reason is not justified.
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah.
To me, what makes sense to me, and everybody has their own thoughts on this, what makes sense to me is to just go out in the wild and get it yourself if you can.
Yeah.
Everybody can't.
No, I know.
People don't have the time.
Right.
I understand that too.
Yeah.
I get that. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but for me,
So basically, Joe Rogan's solution is that instead of going and buying meat or other animal products that come from factory farming, you should just go out there and hunt the animals yourself.
What is your logic? Ow.
Well, Joe, you literally don't have to do that. You literally don't have to kill any animal. You know this. You have seen the science. You've had extremely educated professionals on your channel who have talked to you about the health benefits of a vegan diet, of all the science and all the data that exists out there that shows that we can all be vegan and survive and thrive on a plant-based diet. Therefore, you're going out and killing an innocent animal in the wild. It's not going to be justified just because you're against factory farms. Just because they didn't have a horrible life inside a factory farm doesn't mean that you have the right to take that life away from them.
I was at a point in 2012 where I was trying to decide if I was going to be a vegan or vegetarian. I would lean towards vegetarian because I don't think there's anything wrong with free-range eggs and things along those lines. And
Alright, so there's actually a lot of things wrong with free-range eggs. Let's just talk about that quickly. When it comes to eggs, it's the unfertilized reproductive system of a chicken, the equivalent of the human ovulation that women have. So chickens are supposed to ovulate between 12 to maximum 20 times a year, but as a result of their genetic manipulation over these decades, they are now bred into a situation where they actually ovulate up to 300 times a year, right? They have their ovulation almost every single day of the year. Therefore, when you are taking the eggs away from them, first of all, you are causing them distress. The act of laying an egg actually is very painful for a chicken. Other than that, it also depletes their bodies from a lot of nutrients, specifically calcium that is found in the shell of the egg. And for that exact same reason, what you can also do is when you have the egg of a chicken that you have in your backyard, let's say, or in free-range conditions, you can just break it back for them and they will eat it. I've done this myself numerous times. A lot of animal rights activists who rescue egg-laying chickens from factory farms and other places, they still take the egg and give it back to the chicken. Why? First of all, because animals are not resources. Second of all, because that does not belong to you. Third of all, because you literally don't need to do it, okay? Therefore, there actually is a lot of things wrong with free-range eggs.
There's anything wrong with catching fish either, so maybe I'd be like a pescatarian.
Right.
So for some reason, he also doesn't believe that there's something wrong with catching fish. So if you are not aware, fish are just as sentient and evolved as any other animal. They are sentient beings. They do feel pain. They are conscious beings. And if you are against doing that to any animal on land, then you are automatically against doing that to any other animal wherever they live, whatever their environment is. Unless, of course, you want to be a hypocrite.
To avoid was the factory farming thing is fucked up.
It is completely.
So then I started hunting. I was like, it's going to be one or the other. And once I started hunting, I was like, oh, this is the way.
So this is kind of a false dichotomy. It's weird because he is aware that there's a third solution, which is veganism, but he's kind of portraying it in a way that it was either factory farming or hunting for some reason. He completely pushed aside the option of going vegan, and he decided to go hunting. And he kind of gives us the impression that we should be feeling good about that because he's not supporting factory farming, because factory farming is horrible. But just because one thing is worse than the other doesn't mean you should choose, for example, hunting in this case, simply because there's a third option, which is going vegan, because there's nothing in these animals that you are hunting that your body needs to survive that you can't find in a healthy and balanced vegan diet.
Exciting and crazy and wild, and it puts you in tune with nature in this crazy way, and you have this deep, intense respect for wild things that I never had before. I didn't think about the management of wildlife or the resources of the land that we have, like public land, and that these animals roam these areas, and these areas have to be supported with money, and that money comes from hunting tags and a tax on sportsman's gear and sporting gear. And,
right.
You know, anything hunting gear related.
So just because with hunting you are supporting the maintenance of these lands doesn't mean that it is justified. Actually, the animal agriculture industry is subsidized by tens of billions of dollars. I think it's around $35 billion a year in subsidies from tax-paying money. That is enough money to take care of all these lands that you claim that are being taken care of with hunting. You can't justify what you're doing just because some of the money that you're spending is going to maintain the area and take care of it.
Hunting gear related, they pay a giant sum of that money that goes towards conservation. It's a big tax.
How is that justified? So if I start a machine gun company today that is sold to people to go out and kill children, and then I use some of that money to support organizations that help children, does that then justify people killing children for no reason?
Right.
It's like 11%.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is like what supports that, and all the licenses and everything that supports the fish and wildlife management of this country, of all this wild game. And and that's why there's more deer in this country than there's been since Columbus landed.
One of the main reasons that there's such a huge imbalance when it comes to wildlife in nature in this day and age is because of animal agriculture. Actually, government agencies are hired and they pay millions of dollars every single year to kill millions of wild animals because they are seen as threat to livestock farms. Alright, so don't claim that you're doing this to keep the deer population down. The reason why the deer population and other herbivorous animal population is going up is because their natural predators numbers are going down because of animal agriculture.
And then there's other animals that they had almost extirpated because of what they used to call market killing. Market hunting they used to do at the turn of the century, back when they didn't have refrigerators. They would just took advantage of these wild animals roaming around. They would hire assassins essentially to go out, shoot these animals and sell the meat.
It's funny how he refers to himself and others as hunters, and then when he talks about this historical fact, he says assassins. Like, that is basically a murderer.
So at one point in time, before Fish and Wildlife Management Company started managing all this stuff, there was a severe problem with the lack of wildlife and the possible impending extinction crisis. But since then, they've repopulated elk in a lot of areas. They repopulated deer almost everywhere it was before.
And the video ends with him just still trying to justify hunting by talking about the repopulation and taking care of these lands and wildlife with the money that is spent on hunting gear and permits. That being said, thank you so much for watching. This is a really weird video because Joe Rogan did go back and forth defending veganism, making very great and objective points, but then really in a weird way justifying what he's doing, using false dichotomies, which is logical fallacy as well, and trying to justify the murder of these innocent animals. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you want to support this channel and my activism, please click on my website or go to ethicsoverhabits.com to buy vegan merchandise, all ethically made with organic materials. Again, I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment in the comment section below if you want me to make another commentary similar to this one. I'll see you in the next video.